let's talk about what's going on the ground. Because I don't know if you saw this, fam. This is from antiwar.com. Hamas reiterates a call for a permanent ceasefire and Israeli withdrawal from Gaza for a hostage deal. So at the end of the day, no matter what, they're still not calling for a ceasefire whatsoever. Israel has been going on with their bombing in Rafah, has been going on with their genocide. I don't know if you saw, we played it the other day, the politician, the lawmaker in Ireland, fam, on the floor, the gentleman screaming and losing. And where's your humanity? Just laying it all out. Did you see it?
No, but I agree.
I mean, it was moving. It was crazy. The head of Hamas's political bureau, Ismail Haniyeh, reaffirmed on Wednesday the Palestinian group's conditions of a permanent ceasefire and Israeli withdrawal from Gaza for any hostage deal with Israel. The movement and factions of the resistance will deal seriously and positively with any agreement that is based on a comprehensive ending of the aggression and the complete withdrawal and prisoner swap, Haniyeh said. The ceasefire proposal President Biden presented to the public involves a 6-week truce and an initial hostage and prisoner exchange in the first phase. During that time, the two sides are supposed to negotiate a permanent ceasefire, and the Israeli withdrawal will begin in the second phase. Israel officials say the language is vague enough that Israel could agree to the deal without actually committing to a permanent ceasefire. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu continues to express his opposition to ending military operations in Gaza, which could sabotage the deal as it's making Hamas more likely to ask for stronger guarantees. Biden presented the potential ceasefire deal as an Israeli proposal, but Netanyahu said there were gaps, fam, in what Israel had agreed to and what Biden outlined. The U.S. is still pushing for the deal. The CIA director, William Burns, is expected to meet with Egyptian and Qatari officials about it this week. Meanwhile, Israel continues to slaughter Palestinians across Gaza and has escalated operations in the central part of the Strip. Al Jazeera reported Wednesday that 75 Palestinians were killed in central Gaza over the previous 24 hours. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant reiterated on Wednesday that Israel would not halt its military operations to foster negotiations. Any negotiations with Hamas would be conducted only under fire, he said. Fam, your thoughts?
Okay. The United States does not want any of this. This is all theatrics. The United States needs Israel in the region because some people's favorite, RFK Jr., actually told us this very, very well. Israel is a bulwark for the United States in the Middle East. The United States needs Israel where it's at. This is all just BS. They know Netanyahu isn't going to accept. This is all good cop, bad cop. And again, they're going to Egypt and Qatar. Egypt and Qatar have basically sold out the Palestinian people to Israel, essentially. They haven't done anything really to help them at all whatsoever. Egypt deserves all the criticism. Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. Yeah, they're being pressured because obviously with the changing world order right now, you've seen Saudi Arabia try to make amends with Iran and Syria. But at the end of the day, they continue having the businesses with Israel that allow Israel to have these weapons and to have this funding. So the question is, when will they actually have the courage to actually stand by Palestinians fully and help them, like Lebanon has been doing, like Hezbollah has been doing, like the Ansarullah has been doing, like the Axis of Resistance has been doing? When will they actually have the courage to do that? I don't know if they will. Right now, it seems like, for example, talks of putting the not Hamas in charge, but the Palestinian Authority in charge. And if you don't know about the Palestinian Authority have no authority. They literally have no authority. They're situated in Ramallah and in the occupied West Bank, and they have zero authority. They are told what to do by Israel. And when you hear this thing as, oh, well, yes, we're going to establish a Palestinian state led by the PA, it's complete and total bullshit, because the Palestinian Authority is run by Israel because all of the movements and all the checkpoints are run by Israel. Palestinians can't go anywhere without Israel approving them. So again, all of these sort of things that we're seeing coming from the US, coming from a lot of these organizations of international law, you could say some of them are good intentioned, like coming from the International Criminal Court. But when you're talking about the US and Biden and what they're saying, this is all a push for the election because he has to seem a little bit human in comparison to Donald Trump. I don't really see this going anywhere.
You know, it makes me think, you know, fam, we start talking about Qatari and Egypt, where they're kind of looking at them to help broker a deal. And obviously, I think the Hamas government is stationed in Qatar. So, I mean, there is some, you know, roots to that. But what did you think of the other day about Nina Turner's tweet? Because I think this is important. And she said, arrest Netanyahu and the Hamas leaders. I think that's both sides in a situation. And when I look at this article over here, I think it's important to point out that they're not on the same level. What the Hamas leaders have done, and this is something that RFK has tried to do too, fam, and you'll be happy to know, I'm happy to report that the Libertarians would not nominate him. The majority of the Libertarians said no way because of his stance on Israel-Palestine. Just to report back some good news to you from the anti-war party that it is. But when we start talking about this both sidesing, and this is something that RFK has brought up and some other people have brought up, it's a talking point that these Hamas leaders are billionaires. They don't give a damn. They're not on equal footing. When you talk about the definition of both sidesing is that you kind of are taking a middle of the road position because you don't have the guts to stand up and take a side on one particular position because you're afraid of the backlash that might come of it. It's unmerited to think for a second that the Hamas leaders are on the same level as what the Netanyahu government has done. It's just ridiculous. And we see a lot of this going on where even when it comes to these negotiations or the ICC, they're trying to present what the Hamas leaders and Netanyahu have done on the same level. And that's just not the case, fam.
Not only is it not the case, it is actually, it's just blasphemy. It's insulting because, again, when you talk about Hamas, yes, you can point out to the fact that, of course, they were funded by Israel at one point to get rid of the leftist socialist government of Palestine, blah, blah, blah. We all know the story. But of course, they have betrayed that, and they became the ones that actually pushed this entire resistance. Of course, there's the Qassam al-Brigades. There's so many different kinds, but Hamas has been, of course, in the region, in Gaza, the entity that has been fighting the most. And when you think about what you do, what you're born in, and when you hear the stories of Palestinians who, for example, one young man whose mother I interviewed, he was born in 2002 during the second Intifada, between the war between Israel and the Palestinians in the West Bank. And he was born into a refugee camp, and they lived in this refugee camp. And he was asking his mom, why are we doing this throughout his childhood? Eventually, he becomes a fighter for the resistance. And then eventually he dies at 21 years old as a fighter for the resistance. So when you talk about Hamas, you talk about people who had basically no other choice than to fight for their freedom. And if we understand that, if you call yourself some sort of patriot or freedom fighter or whatever, you would understand that if you don't have your freedom or your ability to move, you would essentially do everything you can to get it. And so when you think about Hamas, whatever you may think of them, they were fighting an occupation. Therefore, they have international law on their side. October 7th, as we have learned officially, a lot of these people were killed by friendly Israeli fire. A lot of these people were killed by Israel from the Apache helicopters. A lot of these people were also part of the IDF because Israel controls their population in this way. So again,
mandatory service, by the way, in the IDF. Yeah.
It's not even in the same dimension to try to compare it all. You're talking about people who are fighting back, and then the occupation recognized as an occupation by international law.
Yep. Guys, do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the share button, get it out there. Fam, if you want to know the rhetoric, when you hear some of RFK's rhetoric and you see the people pushing back, all you have to do is look to people like Michael Rappaport that will give you all the talking points to justify the bombing of babies and what Israel is doing. And now you see so many Israel flags out there still flying around, justifying what's going on. October 7th, Hamas, 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 Hamas. Fam, listen to the rhetoric and then give us your opinion. Let's go full screen on this real quickly. You're watching the Convo Couch, everybody. Fiorella Isabel, Pasta, Jardula, Jamie, Cheese Slice on the 1, 2. Hit the like button, hit the share button. Let's get it out there. Independent media rocks with your help. Here is Michael Rappaport, fam's favorite New York actor.
A school was bombed by the IDF today. Blah, 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 blah. Says who? What school? What classes were being taught in the school? Who are the teachers? I don't believe it. It's bullshit because every single thing that comes out of Gaza is a lie. There's no proof ever. And these big fake horror stories are reported by big fake journalists. And then 2 or 3 days later, the same big fake journalists are reimagining and re-explaining everything. Schools ain't just schools in Gaza. Mosques ain't just mosques. Homes ain't just homes. The entire place is infected by terrorists. They voted in Hamas. Talk about rigged elections. That's a rigged election. It's a terrorist-ran, hopeless haven. And it ain't anybody's fault except for the decades and decades of dumb, psycho leaders that run the joint. It's 2024. It's 2024. There's so many opportunities. There's so many things to be focused on, and the only thing these people focus on and think about is taking over Israel and killing Jews. You, they ran it into the ground. It's not my fault. It's not the Jews' fault. It's not Israel's fault. It's nobody's fault except for their own. You, and be clear, Hamas could give a about one person in Gaza. They love death. They say it loud and proud. They love death. Does that sound like they give a about anybody? They don't give a about themselves. And I'd feel bad for them if they didn't want to kill me simply because I'm Jewish. Hamas. Anyone who's stupid enough to think that it's Israel or the Jews or anybody else's fault that got him into this position.
Fam, they did it to themselves. Fam, they did it to themselves. It was their own fault. They elected Hamas, right? You know, it's the Hamas just wants to kill Jews. They just hate Jews for being Jewish, not because they're occupying them, not because they're bombing them indiscriminately. It's because they're Jewish, right? You know, and what is Hamas? It's a cult of death. We can't do anything. What are we supposed to do? We have to go after them, even though if they're using people as human shields. We have to do it. How do we not get, if we let off our foot off the brakes right now, Hamas will come back. Hamas is the problem, fam. Fuck you, says Michael Rappaport. Your thoughts?
He's a really terrible actor. That's my thoughts. I mean, it's just, who's going to listen to him and not have any hate for him and want to ever watch him in anything ever again? I mean, the guy is just finished. Everything he says is a complete and total fabrication. There's nothing else one can say. I mean, he's just a vile person. Just a vile person who is trying to make some sort of name for himself because nobody even knows he's an actor. I thought he was just a Twitter like asshole.
No,
I even forgot he's an actor. I genuinely didn't know because he just engages with everybody on Twitter. So I thought he was just like
seen True Romance, fam, with Christian Slater and you know what I'm saying, and Brad Pitt. He was Floyd's roommate. You know, he was on T.J. Hooker. You know, this is Michael Rappaport over here. He's old school, fam. He's been around for a long time. So, you know, I mean, it is what it is. But, I mean, he's been a vocal voice. There's the best video with Michael Rappaport is the one where somebody just throws a snowball and hits him on the back of the head. Can you find that one for us really quickly, Jamie? Just put Michael Rappaport snowball because he just gets pegged and just hit hard in the back of the head. But, I mean, listen, it's not only him, fam, that are putting those points out there. It seems to be like, you know, an effort by many, you know, and I let them just say these things and let them hang themselves. Go ahead, say these things. You look like an idiot and an asshole for trying to put these points out there. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. You've lost the PR game. It's kind of over right now. But at the end of the day, the reason why it's so important to talk about these things is because the bombing and the death and the killing, fam, is still going on. We haven't stopped it. There hasn't been enough people calling up their congressman and go, what are you kidding me? Stop this right now. This is our tax dollars. What are you doing? We don't need these problems. We have problems here at home. Get out now today. No foreign interference. But they're not doing that, fam. They're still finding ways to justify it. And people like Michael Rappaport are putting it out there. And people are freaking, repeating it like a parakeet. It's terrible.
Yeah, and I don't even think calling your congressman does anything, Pasta, because at the end of the day, they don't represent us. So at the end of the day, I'm not even there at this point. So I've been at Burn It Town for a few years, but I really do think, guys, it's time. I don't really see how you're going to elect your way out of this, how you're going to even protest your way peacefully out of this. I mean, I think it's going to take something bigger to catapult Americans into something. And again, I don't necessarily wish that upon it. People who live in the United States, but this is you're going through an era of decadence. You're going through an era where things are falling apart, and it's very obvious to anybody that is seeing it, whether you're living there or whether you're living outside of there. It is very obvious that things are falling apart, and I just think if they fall apart without anything there to lead some sort of organization in the right direction, then what ends up happening is extreme chaos and a takeover. By the way, there's a movie that came out came out. I think it was called Civil War. And I think it's predictive programming, but we could talk about that another time. But that one, it's about like the government and the people fighting each other and that sort of thing. It's a movie with Kirsten Dunst. She hasn't been in movies in a while. But actually, they were playing it in Russia, but they were only playing it in Russian. So I haven't seen it, which is
wow.
Weird.
Watches movies. Listen, fam, we showed everybody Michael Rappaport saying a bunch of dumb things. Let's reward people for their patience and show Michael Rappaport getting exactly what he deserves. Take a look, and we'll go to the next section.
This whole crap with this cancel culture and the...
Shut up! Shit! Shut the fuck up! Nobody wants to hear it. Fucker. You've been talking all fucking week. You don't care what you have to say. Just stop talking.
You got me right in my fucking head, asshole.
Stop.
Damn it.
Thank you. One of my favorite videos out there, Michael Rappaport getting hit with a snowball in New York. And,
I'm pretty sure that was... Is that real?
Good,
I don't even think it's real.
Oh, he got hit hard. It was real when he got hit hard. Somebody just walked up and pegged his ass. It was like, bah.
That's hilarious.
If you watch that thing, you hear the thump. Bah! It just hit. It was icy. It was an icy snowball. Whether it was true or not, I enjoy seeing Michael Rappaport get hit with anything, especially a snowball.